What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Pastor Keenan with the Sidekick Nick. What's up, Nick?
I'll just being a sidekick. All the fun glories that go along with that.
There you go, man. You are the Robin to the Batman.
Catching the allergies off of you and everything.
Man, I am tired of getting blamed for your sickness. You have stated multiple times through multiple podcast episodes that you stay sick. That is what you've said, right or wrong.
I mean, yeah, but since I came to fruition, we're gonna bring that back up.
Yeah,
again.
You're the one, Keenan, that's sick a lot at fruition, and so it's like I've hung around you, and now I'm sick, whatever. But man, shout out to everybody that is dealing with some allergies and sinuses right now. It is insane what is
Kentucky,
going on.
if you have allergies, don't come to Kentucky.
Oh my goodness, like it is insane. Like yellow blankets on cars, and you just can't go outside without swelling up and looking like it. You got a
stay puffed, man.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, looking like you got a shellfish allergy, and you just been eating at the Red Lobster all night. Just it's insane right now, man. So yeah, shout out to everybody who's been dealing with it. I've been popping Dayquil, NyQuil. Mucinex.
I've been popping pills.
Yeah, right. Like I've been doing it all, man. Just trying to survive and stay afloat, and trying to nurse this voice along. If most people don't know, it's how I make my money. It's through my voice. So not just through church and podcasts, but my actual 40 to 45 hour a week job. That helps keep the lights on. About 6 hours a day. It helps keep my gas tank at a half tank most of the time. Yeah, so it's like I have my voice to do everything, and so I have to nurse it the best way I can. So if you hear me cough and hack like I've been smoking for 22 years, it's because I'm just still trying to get. Nick, was you about ready to cough?
Oh no.
Okay, so if you hear me do that, then it's just because I'm trying to clear my throat and and keep going. So
yeah, we're not in here like Elon Musk and Joe Rogan.
I know, yeah. We're not blazing or anything like that. So, but let's get into it, Nick. Man, let's talk about Sunday's sermon. Let's talk about how God just. I love how God's doing things in our services, and how people are responding to the gospel. And we talked about just a simple title Sunday: just listen, just listen. God really broke it down simple for me on Sunday about how simplistic the gospel is, how simplistic our relationship is with Him, just how we really overcomplicate everything. And before we read the scripture, talk about it just for a second, Nick. I know we're guilty of it, but have you ever been guilty of just trying to make it harder than what it actually is?
Yeah, we are our own worst enemy. We get in the way of everything. All the time, 24/7, we always, God tells us something, we kind of put it to the wayside because, we start second guessing it. We start second guessing ourselves, and, it becomes a big mess. I'm really just trying to, listen to your own voice rather than listen to the word of God and the voice of God.
A dumpster fire.
Yeah, that dumpster fire that is your own opinion.
Right, yeah. Train wreck,
Setting yourself up for failure constantly. Self-fulfilling prophecies, I'm going to fail, so you do fail.
Yeah,
all that kind
exactly.
of stuff.
You speak it before you see it, and then you're standing in the middle of it. That type of situation. I get it, man. I think we make it so complicated whenever God makes it so simple. And this is going to surprise you, but we are actually coming from Leviticus of all places. We've been 26 chapters deep in Leviticus. That's where it's coming from, and I'm going to read these verses to you right here. And bear with me. I may have to stop, pause, and cough a little bit, but we're going to get through this. Mm-hmm. Starting verse 3. Together, exactly, yes. It says, "If you live by my decrees and obediently keep my commandments, I will send the rains in their seasons. The ground will yield its crops, and the trees of the field their fruit. You will thresh until the grape harvest, and the grape harvest will continue until planting time. You'll have more than enough to eat and will live safe and secure in your land. I'll make the country a place of peace. You'll be able to go to sleep at night without fear. I'll get rid of the wild beast. I'll eliminate war. You'll chase out your enemies and defeat them. 5 of you will chase 100, and 100 of you will chase 10,000 and do away with them. I'll give you my full attention. I'll make sure you prosper, make sure you grow in numbers, and keep my covenant with you in good working order. You'll still be eating from last year's harvest when you have to clean out the barns to make room for the new crops. I'll set up my residence in your neighborhood. I won't avoid or shun you. I'll stroll through your streets. I'll be your God. You'll be my people. I am God, your personal God, who rescued you from Egypt so that you would no longer be slaves to the Egyptians. I ripped off the harness of your slavery so that you can move about freely. Man, that's some good verses right there. That's God speaking to the Israelites, Nick. That's God telling them. And he starts it off. If you listen, keep, obey, follow my commandments, my instructions. Like very, very simple, straightforward stuff. He doesn't say you have to have a 7-year degree. Doesn't say you have to be in the church for 22 years. Doesn't say you have to be dressed a certain way. He just says, if you listen to me. How much freedom, Nick, do you think that gives us as far as people to be able to say, no matter who I am, where I am, what I am, or what I'm going through, I just have to listen. How much freedom do you think that gives us? I
mean, it should give us a lot of freedom. But, I think, unfortunately, again, we get in the way of ourselves on a constant daily basis. If all of our dreams, wishes, everything would come true, we'd be happy-dory, everything would be great. If we would just listen to God, you'd think it would be simple, just shut up and listen to God. But
right.
Instead, we're always getting in the way of it. We're like, oh, he couldn't possibly mean that. It has to be harder than that. I think that's a weird culture thing that we're in.
I was going to say, do you think that's the general rule of people, is that, if it's that simple, then it's got to be something wrong.
Yeah, it's like that verbiage, like it's too good to be true type thing.
Right, like it's too straightforward, and I think we've been so guilty of that, of like God is so straightforward, is like let's complicate it. Let's make it to where it's unobtainable. And God really laid this on my heart before you go on, but he said, don't make the Bible, or don't. Or he said, understand the Bible, so you don't make heaven unobtainable. Don't complicate the Bible so much that you make heaven unobtainable. It's simple. It's so simple. Just listen. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. We come up with all these different, whether it be, rules or regulations or expectations, more so than anything, of, how things should be, and I think I've heard you say this before, like heaven's not a black tie affair, we're not
Absolutely.
going, just because you show up to church, in a suit, 3-piece suit looking like you're ready for a business meeting, doesn't mean you're any more saved than the person who shows up to Sunday service dressed in shorts and a tank top. It's really about the heart, and I think we've made so much of it about the outward appearance and the outward expectations, of the church, and I think that really pushes a lot of people away. I mean, more so than anything, as everyday Christian, we're always striving towards something that is unobtainable.
Right.
Instead of just sitting still, resting, and listening to God, we're constantly trying to please God. We're constantly trying to get His approval. Constantly, when we already have it. He already loves us. He already is going to care about us and love us more than any other human could possibly do. But we're still out here trying to make sure that we're being the absolute best we possibly can be.
Yeah.
Which can it's a good thing. Trying to be your best and all that, but I think it can trip up a lot of people sometimes, because they're too worried about, what am I wearing? What am I looking like? What am I saying? Versus what does God say? Is what is God trying to tell you? What is,
right.
I think we, as you were just saying, we overcomplicate it. And, in the process of overcomplicating it, we can, kind of make heaven unobtainable.
Yeah, I do think, I think the reason why we've made it so much about outwardly is because I feel like that religion has made it so much about outwardly stuff. Let's just say, if you come to church over here, we've had this discussion before, time and time again. Sunday best, quote unquote. Is your starched collars, your how do you want to say that? Your khakis. If you don't have that on, then you're not going to be welcomed here. If you don't have a dress that touches your ankles, you're not going to be welcomed here. If you defile your body with these ungodly tattoos over here, you're not going to be welcomed here. It's like we have standards of check marks, systems of check marks.
It's like we've really turned good ideas into something like extreme to an extent. If you kind of look at the basis for some of the reasoning behind these things, it's to, your body's a temple. You're supposed to, kind of appear your best and show your best off. And, you're not supposed to lead other people to lust and to sin. But,
right.
In and of that self, we kind of like overdo it a little bit.
Well, let me tell you this. I'm not going to take any advice from somebody about how to treat my body. If they look at me and they go, Keenan, you don't need to tattoo your body up, but yet they're 432 pounds. You know what I'm saying? Don't come at me with treat your body like a temple and, you over here one cheeseburger away from a heart attack. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just where, again, I think we make it so complicated. And I think it's so easy, Nick, to be able to pick apart everybody else's walk, pick apart everybody else's life, but we think we're doing it correct, and God says, listen, just listen to me. Don't listen to what everybody else says. Don't listen to the rules and the propaganda and the check marks and the list and the whatever the case may be that, that is on, that the church puts out, that your denomination puts out, or, whatever the case may be. Like, is that in the Bible? Is that part of Scripture? Or is that just men and women trying to get you to, look like them, to fall in line with them? Like, what are you really trying to accomplish?
Yeah, and it's kind of like a bullying standpoint to an extent. Like, I'm better. I feel insecure in my own faith, but when I see somebody doing something I don't do, then I have to point it out to where it looks like I'm better than they are.
Absolutely.
And I think we get in trouble with that a lot. And I'm guilty of doing that a long time ago. Sometimes I'd be like, well, I don't drink, I don't smoke, so I'm a better. How can you be a Christian and still drink and smoke, and different things like that. That you kind of look at somebody, and again, you're kind of but on the backside here, I may be lusting, or I may be cussing, or I may be doing something else, but at least I'm not drinking. At least I'm not smoking. I don't have any tattoos on my body. We'll throw that at you a little bit.
You always got to go there.
Yeah, no, but again, I just think it's those little things, that we sometimes try to make ourselves feel better.
Yeah.
Like it's okay. I don't do this, but I do this. We're not going to talk about that. Just like we talked about that before, those pastors and priests, they're like, don't be an adulterer, but they're over here, doing things with kids,
right,
and in the background. So, be good and be smart with money, but they're over here cheating on their spouse, or, just different things like that. We try to hide in our own closet and compare ourselves a lot, which, as we've talked about before, is a big kind of a tripping point for a lot of Christians, is comparison. But, all of that just goes back to, overcomplicating things. We're trying to come up with these different rules and regulations and ideas on our own accord, rather than just listening to God and what He convicts you to do.
Right.
And I think that's where we get in a lot of trouble as Christians, is that we're fighting with other Christians rather than supporting them. Maybe in your maybe you feel better when you're wearing your long dress and dressed up like in a suit, but you don't have to yell at me because I'm not. And I think that's where we get in all big trouble.
Man. That's big for real. Like, if we were worried about ourselves as we were worried about each other, if we were worried, and I get it, man, and I say this all the time from the stage, like, Hodgenville, LaRue County is like the what do you call that, man? Like the
epitome?
The Neapolitan, the Neapolitan ice cream of churches.
Choose your flavor.
Yeah, you just
Baskin-Robbins.
like it is definitely 31 flavors. Like, you can go anywhere and get anything you want to, like in a church in LaRue County, man. So, not saying that we do it right, not saying that we do it wrong, not saying that we, whatever. It's like, every church place is different. But don't come hating on fruition because we do it a certain way, different from what you might do. It's so funny because our new members, how far are we in, Nick? Talk to me.
15 minutes.
Ooh, 15.
Halfway done, right?
Right. So, our new members that come in sometimes, we'll have people that they'll just tell us funny stories because, they'll tell people where they're going, and they're like, oh, well, I didn't know you'd go up there. They seem kind of loose up there. And it's like, what what does that even mean? You know, like, what does loose even mean in a church? I'm not really for sure, you know. They've said, oh, do they have guitars up there? Like, what does that mean? You know, like, where do you go? I mean, you know, it's just things like that, man, really makes me wonder, like, you know, instead of people going, or do they preach Jesus? Mm-hmm. Are they talking about salvation? You know, like, they go to things, materialistic things, like that don't even make sense.
How many churches have broken up over carpet color?
Absolutely.
You know, it's crazy. You hear stories about that all the time. You know, like churches, you know, like firing pastors because they wanted a certain carpet.
Yeah.
Or they wanted to do this with their worship ministry. Like, oh, no, we only do hymnals here. How dare you recommend contemporary music?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's just something that's just crazy. Like, I mean, that's insane to me.
Right.
You know, like, I mean, that is not biblical. You know, I don't care which way you want to spin it, you know, you know, it's just whatever way you want to spin it, you know, it's not, you know, a church should not be broken up just because, you know, of the type of work. Now, of course, if you're trying to go in there and singing, you know, like weird, like, I don't, you know, throat singing, like monk songs, you know, yeah, I can see somebody not wanting to do that in their church. But, yeah, like, I can't remember, Gregorian throat chanting or whatever it's called. You know,
what do you look up on YouTube? Like, where are
I
you
don't
at?
look it up.
Yeah, how far do you go?
One episode of America's Got Talent is all you need to see the weird stuff going on.
Maybe that's, like, but I thought you were rabbit hole deep on YouTube, but go ahead.
But I mean, again, you know, it's just those things, you know, you shouldn't, it's just those things, again, you know, that you shouldn't be judging, you know, again, another church as long as they're holding biblical ties. But I mean, it's like you've said before, you know, so many people judge other churches, and Fruition is an example of that. And they judge us without even listening to a sermon or, you know, or a podcast. Yeah, exactly. Without listening to that and trying to kind of get a base, they just listen to other people's opinion of us rather than forming one themselves, which is speaks about society in a very large way right now.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, God makes a statement, a bold statement. Listen to me.
Not to the world.
Right. Listen to me. Listen to my decrees. Listen to my promises. Listen to my commandments. Listen to my laws, and I will bless you. The gospel is really that simple, Nick. I mean, it's really that simple. If you listen to God, you can be blessed. And he goes into a mixture of like 8 verses of how he's going to bless these people. I mean, it's everything from I will stop war, I will run out the wild beast, you will be able to sleep peacefully. There's promises of harvest, of, you know, you'll still be eating last year's harvest whenever you'll have to clear the barn for the new harvest. Like, there's so many different things that God promises in those small, short verses right there that would literally, and correct me if I'm wrong with this, I know it happened in Leviticus 26. I get it. It's old school, Old Testament type situations. But, Nick, we are literally walking through Leviticus 26 in 2022 right now. I mean, we are in wars. We are afraid, like, you know, how many people don't lock their doors whenever they go somewhere or go to bed at night? How many people don't have a loaded weapon in the house anymore? You know, how many people don't carry loaded guns with them somewhere now? You know, like, we're in that situation where it's like you have to defend yourself these days. We're in food shortages right now, baby food shortages, or formula, however you want to say it. Gas is through the roof. We're seeing everything that God promised surplus in Leviticus 26, we're seeing shortages of in 2022. So, maybe, just maybe, and I'm crazy, I know, it may be the Dayquil talking, maybe the NyQuil, I don't know, maybe the Mucinex, maybe the ibuprofen, maybe a mixture of everything I take in one day right now.
As long as it's not meth or anything.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, everything I take is legal, I promise. You know, they even they carded me over that Dayquil. I mean, it was insane. You know, and the dude made the joke. He's like, they just don't want you to make drugs with it. And I'm like, it's $8, bro. Like, you know, like, I mean, whatever. But anyways, you know, but like, what God is promising in Leviticus 26 is what his promises still are today, that if we would just listen to him, if
but
we would
what
just
are we
listen,
doing?
But we're not, you know, we're not. As soon as the news reports a shortage, what do you think happens? You know, panic.
Snow's coming. Panic.
Yes, exactly. Like as the moment that the news reported that there was a baby formula shortage, everybody put on their flip-flops, their sports bras, you know,
You're putting too much faith in people. They just threw a shirt on and walked right to Walmart.
Yeah, right. Like, whatever the case was, man. They got in their cars. They went to the local store. And if there was 8 cans, they bought 8. Whatever. Like,
look at the toilet paper issue that we had back at the beginning of the pandemic.
Like, people began to hoard. They began to what? They began to trust what they see versus what God says.
Like, if we spent as much time reading our Bible as we spend watching the news.
Oh, man.
It's like,
how dangerous would a Christian be?
Right.
How much faith would a Christian have? How electric and on fire would a church be if we could literally trust what God says?
Are you listening to Fox and CNN or MSNBC?
Yeah,
are you listening to God?
Right. Like, let's not even be like, it's not even about right wing, left wing. It's not about Republican, Democrat, blue, red. Like, everybody has their faults, but God, like, he's never failed. He's never got it wrong. He's never like messed up a situation. So, like, if he says, if you keep my commandments, I'll bless you. If you listen to me, I'll bless you. Like, how in the world can you go against what God says? That's the biggest thing that you can drive from all of this tonight, is that everything that we're seeing in Leviticus 26, where he talks about, everything that's happening right now, that if you just listen, man, you'll be blessed, and I think that's our biggest thing, Nick, is that we have to get ourselves out of the way. We have to get our understanding of things out of the way. We have to get our viewpoints, vision, our we have to get that stuff out of the way, because it's not going to make sense. Things are not going to make sense in front of us. But if we listen, God will bless us.
It's like in those moments, where you're barely making enough to survive. Gas prices are still going up. Shortages are still getting shorter.
Right.
We're in that time where we're dealing with exactly that situation over and over again. And this is that moment where we're really going to be testing the faith of some Christians again.
Right.
And I think, if we've seen anything in the last 2-3 years, God has been testing the faith of Christians.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we're going to see that more and more and more. I mean, we're getting towards, not to be preachy here, but we're getting towards the end days. Things are going to keep getting crazier and crazier.
So you mean that sign on I-65 is true?
It might just be back. He might just be coming back. I think so, according to the Bible anyway.
Right.
But we're getting closer and closer to that. And as we get closer to that, just as it says in Matthew and Revelations, we're going to see crazier and crazier stuff happen.
Yeah.
And this is really where we're going to be kind of sifting. Like when you're panning for gold. You're going to be sifting people here.
Where
like
are
the
Bible
true Christians?
says, you're going to be separating the wheat from the chaff, man.
Yep,
I mean,
exactly.
You're going to be separating the good and the bad. I really like the book of Revelation. There's a lot of imagery in there. There's a lot of deep digging when it comes to it. But at the end of the day, like, when it comes down to that mark and that beast and that one world order and how you're going to survive, and and the Bible talks about how if you don't have that mark, that you're not going to be able to buy, sell, barter, trade, or anything. You're basically going to be excluded from the economy, excluded from just doing anything whatsoever. That's really going to separate the Christians from the folks who are going to fold, and at that moment, it's like you're going to be seeing like, who's going to trust God through this process?
Yep. Are you trusting God to provide, or are you trusting your government to provide?
Exactly. So that's what it's really going to take, man. And like you said, you don't want to be preachy, but those days are around the corner. We don't know. It could be today, tomorrow, 6 months, a year. We're not for sure. But we just know, like I said, 1,000 times, each day we're here, we're one day closer. That's that part is true. We know that for sure. But Nick, just kind of put your own spin on it, man, before we close this thing out. Like I said, trust. What can we do better? What can we do better to trust him? How can we trust him more? How can we do what we do, man, to really experience the blessings of God?
And a lot of it just, I think, comes from, and I've talked about this before, but taking that leap of faith in some situations, and Turning off your TV for a little bit, turning off your, other than our podcast, turning off other podcasts.
Ain't that it?
Making sure you're only listening. And I think this is something, that I actually, I prayed over a couple of people Sunday, that we need to be listening to the voice of God, and we need help, pray to God to tune out the voice of the music you're listening to, the TV shows you're watching, the movies you're watching, whatever else is, whatever is speaking into your life, tune those voices out and try to listen for God and His voice.
The monster we're drinking.
Yeah, right, exactly. Tuning all that out. Tune that stuff out, and so you can listen to the word and the voice of God, and just knowing that in the times that we're in right now, where our faith as Christians are being tested, as an everyday Christian, we really need to learn to stop running to the government or a new job or a new relationship. We need to stop, rest in God, which was we just talked about that. We need to rest in God. We need to listen for God, and we need to trust that what He said is true still today. What He said in Leviticus 26 is still true today. If we shut ourselves up, we stop listening to the world, and we listen to God, and we trust that what He said in Leviticus 26, that He will provide for us if we stop and listen to Him. Just as it says in throughout other parts of the Bible, if we have faith in Him instead of the world, if we are going to put everything in His hands and trust Him with it, and that if He takes care of the birds and the trees, He'll take care of us. Even in a time of shortage, He will provide the gas for you. He will provide that ability to get to work. He will provide the food for your infant. He will provide all of these things for you. Just trusting that what He said in the Bible is true is going to be huge in the next month, year, whatever it may be. Here in the next few days, weeks, months, years, we're going to really be tried and tested hard. That book of Job that everybody references all the time. We're talking about it. We're all going to be experiencing something similar to that. I really, truly believe that we're going to experience a lot of that now, because you don't want to be left behind, in the rapture situation. There may still be a chance for you to get saved, but I promise you it's going to be a whole heck of a lot harder.
And worse.
Exactly. And you're going to be dealing with a whole heck of a lot of stuff. So, you want to make sure that you're right with God, and that you have faith in Him, and that you have that salvation, and that you know it and really, truly believe it in your soul that you are saved and you're going to heaven. So that way, as these things, like I said, it's all pointing to it. It's all pointing to the end times right now, and we're going to be getting closer and closer, like you said, every day that we're alive. So we need to make sure that we're listening to the voice and the truth of God rather than the voice of the world and news and TV shows and music and all this sort of stuff that's really as a whole, it's rotting us, where it's really destroying us and tearing us apart and putting us down. And the media is really the true poison. It's not necessarily the government, sometimes it's them. But just making sure that we're able to trust and listen to God rather than the world is going to play a huge part in the next weeks, months, years, and putting our faith in Him rather than in the world.
One thing that I just want to say is that even during shortage, He's still the Savior. Even when times look tough, He's still the Savior. Even when things don't make sense, He's still the Savior. That's the thing I want to hammer home to people, is that He's worthy to be praised in the good, but He's also worthy to be praised in the bad as well, and that makes a huge difference. I think whenever we trust Him, and I gave this analogy, and then I'm like I said, we're closing down, but I gave this analogy Sunday. It's not the fact of that God doesn't speak. I think it's the fact of that we don't understand or know His voice sometimes.
He speaks in a whisper, and I think that sometimes we get so surrounded by things in the world that are so loud that we just we miss that whispering voice.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. And I likened it to a mother raising a child, and a mother losing that child in a crowd one day. And when that mother loses that child, that mother's going to scream that child's name. And no matter how many people are between her and that child, and no matter how loud the situation is, if that child yells back, I promise you that mother can be able to hear that voice out of everybody else. Because why? Because that mother has spent her whole life with that child. And it's the same way with God. Like if we are really in tune with God, and we're reading His Word, and we're praying, and we're seeking, and we're searching, and we're listening, and we're doing everything that we're doing, no matter what happens and what goes crazy and what pops off in this world, if God says something, we'll still be able to hear it because we know God's voice. We know His voice because we spend time with Him. We fellowshiped with Him. We have relationship with Him. And so if there's anything that I can say, I think Nick said it great, that we have to trust, we have to rely, we have to, times are going to get worse. Situations are going to get worse. So we really need to lean on him and understand him and really trust him. But if there's anything that I can tell you tonight is that getting that way starts by spending more time with him, whether that's praying, reading, whatever that looks like, coming to church more, searching your soul to go deeper with him, whatever, it's different for everybody, but, just to trust more is to know more, you know him more, you trust him more. That's just how it is. And so, for everybody out there listening tonight, our title was Just Listen. Just listen to him. Don't make it complicated. Don't think you have to put on a 3-piece suit to go to church. Don't think you have to cover up everything you've done wrong in your past to go to church. Don't think you have to give $1,000 in a tithe basket to make it better. If you do come to fruition, we'll take care of that for you, right? It's not about the materialistic, physical work part of it. It's literally, like you said, Nick, about the heart. And 1 Samuel 16:7 says, God judges upon the inward, the heart. That's what he looks at. And I think that's what we have to really understand, is that if we listen, God is working. Regardless, God is working. Any final thoughts, man? And we're done.
Yeah, I mean, God's always working, and that's, again, that thing that we always we always think we have to work so hard to achieve what God has planned for us when, it's literally the opposite, and God tells us throughout the Bible to stop, to rest in him, to listen to him, and to trust him. It's like, we talked about it before, like that, if you're faithful over a little, God will bless you with a lot.
Absolutely.
You're faithful to God during the shortages. When you have very little, he is going to bless you. You're going to make it. You're going to, and just like we've also talked about, you weren't called just to survive.
Right.
Christians were called to thrive.
Yep.
And I think that so many of us fall by the wayside, and we let the wealth of the world go to all kinds of other people, because we're not living in God's promises. We're just sitting here okay with the mediocre and okay with the minimal.
Yeah.
But God has called us, if we were to just stop and to listen to him and to be faithful with him, even in the midst of a shortage, he is going to bless us exponentially.
Absolutely.
And I think, and this isn't a prosperity preaching thing here, but it's just to say that
I'm ready to receive, baby.
Right, exactly. But just to say that again, God is going to take care of you. If you're still alive, if you're still breathing, God still has a plan for you, your family, and you're going to make it. Don't feel like you don't have any other option. You always have God. He's always going to be there. He's always been there. And just remember to, if in those moments when everything seems hectic, everything's going to heck in a handbasket, you don't know what to do, you don't know where to go, everybody's telling you 30 different things, you're seeking the advice of 30 different people, maybe you need to just stop, shut down, go in the closet, somewhere dark, quiet, where it's just you and God, and listen.
Right.
Pray to God, just have a conversation with him. And I think that's something we get so complicated sometimes, is we want to get in there and, we want to speak these big old things, but, sometimes we need to listen before we pray.
Absolutely.
And he will give you things to pray about, things to talk about. He will talk to you, and he will reveal things to you.
Right.
And just being able to do something like that, get away from the world, get away from people, go be alone with God, and let him speak to you and listen.
Right. Amen. Man. That's it in a nutshell. I ain't even gonna say anything else. I mean, I think you broke it down pretty good right there. Just listen to God, and he'll take care of the rest of it. So, hopefully, man, hopefully you got something out of this tonight. Hopefully you can, take this. Hopefully we didn't lull you to sleep with this monotonous or melancholy, whatever you want to call it, tone, whatever voice. We promise to be a little bit more hyper next week, maybe.
2 energy drinks.
Yes, absolutely, man. Hopefully, like I said, everybody, the strength of the voice will be back to 100%. But just listen. The gospel is simple. Let God bless you by just listening to him. Check us out, www.fruitionchurchky.org. If you want to stop by locally, it's 200 South Lincoln Boulevard, Hodgenville, Kentucky. We're there at 11:15 on Sunday mornings, 7:15 on Wednesday nights. We'd love to have you. Thanks for downloading the podcast and supporting. And as always, we love you so much. Have a blessed week, and we'll catch you next time.